All right, quick disclaimer. It's more than one way to do this, but I'm gonna show you guys how to use Adobe Photoshop and Adobe Premiere Pro to make these animations. All right. Of course, you need Adobe Photoshop and Adobe Premiere Pro. Any version of these should work. You can animate in Adobe Photoshop, but you can do just a little bit more and be more versatile as far as video wise in Adobe Premiere Pro. So that's why I suggest you guys use both programs. They work seamlessly, so it shouldn't be a problem. All right. First thing you want to do is go ahead and start a new file in Adobe Photoshop. I'm using a custom profile, pretty much 15 by 1500. That's usually the standard mixtape dimensions. We ain't printing it, so we don't have to worry about bleed points. So let's go ahead with the 1500 by 1500. Once you got that set up, we'll go ahead and get our source files. Just remember, you're pretty much making a standard mixtape cover. So keep that in mind. Just go ahead and make your mixtape cover. You know, however you make your mixtape cover, just go ahead and make it. And we're going to use Adobe Premiere Pro to animate it. It's just a couple things we can do in Adobe Photoshop to make that animation much more easier. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and import my files. And what I'm doing right here is just copying it and pasting that onto my 1500 by 1500 board. So we're going to go ahead and square that up. You can hold shift when you're dragging the edges to keep everything square. Right here, I went ahead and grabbed my pen tool. And with my pen tool, I'm going to just draw an outline on the first part I want to keep separate. The idea behind this is you want to separate everything on separate layers. That way, when you import it in Premiere Pro, you got your layers to work with, and you can work with everything separate. Now, all I did was right click, close the file up, copy it, paste it into a new layer. All right. Once I got my body on a new layer, I'm gonna animate the second part, which is the cross. So for the sake of this tutorial, you know, it's a little rough around the edges, but what I went ahead and did is just went ahead and kept my hands in there, and I'm gonna go ahead and go around the cross again, because that's the second part I want to animate. I want to keep them two things separate. So right here, I'm gonna copy that. So right here, I'm gonna in those points, make a selection, copy that, and paste that onto a new layer too. So now that I got both of those on the new layer, you can see that's on the new separate layer, and myself is on the separate layer. All right. So now what I'm gonna do is go ahead and work on the font. Again, you want to put everything separate on its separate layer. So when you get in Adobe Premiere Pro, you can fine tune it how you want. Remember, the more items you put on a separate layer, it's the more complex you can get with your design and your animation. Key thing is, save this as a Photoshop document. Don't save it as a JPEG or PNG. Save it as a Photoshop document. Adobe Premiere Pro works seamlessly with Adobe Photoshop, so you can import this in there with no problem. So once you do that, let's go ahead and find your file you just saved, my animated cover. I'm gonna open up that Photoshop document inside Adobe Premiere Pro. You see right here it says import as. Let's click on individual layers, and all that does is put everything you just put on individual layers inside Photoshop. They put it on individual layers inside Adobe Premiere Pro. Once they import that in your bin folder, go in there and you see everything laid out for you. These are my 6 files. That's me, the title, the cross, the other, my name, the background, and the white background that I left. Remember, the more complex you get with this, the more files you will input. Just remember to import everything on individual layers. All right. So next thing we want to do is drag all our files onto our timeline. I'm not worrying about sequence settings since everything is 1500 by 1500, and that is the dimensions I want to keep. So I'm gonna just drag and drop and keep those dimensions. So let's go ahead and drag everything on the timeline. All right, right here, I imported 2 video files that I'm gonna use. You could use green screen or, you know, video. You got to use. What I did was went ahead and grabbed some footage off of YouTube and a green screen for some lightning. So I'm gonna use these clouds as a backdrop. And what I did was pretty much took the clouds and put it underneath all of my layers. And you can see that's how I got this. And you can see everything is still separate from each other. So what we're going to do is just pretty much keyframe our scaling. You know, you could get real complex with this, but we're going to keep it simple and straightforward. So I'm just keyframing the sizes of everything. So I just pretty much want the cross to go from small to big, and I want my body to go from small to big. So I separate them, and what I did was copy and paste my positions from each one. That way they still can move separate, but I just slowed myself down so it can move offset a little bit. You guys can see that. Now what I did was take my lightning. I took my lightning. This is green screen. You can find this on YouTube. I took that, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna overlay that over the entire footage, right? So let's drag that over the footage. And what you guys can do to key this out is take a ultra key. All right, just go in your effects panel, type in ultra key, and let's drag and drop that on our green screen. All right, once you drag that on your green screen, take your teardropper tool, click on the green, and it will key that color out. Now you can make your fine-tune adjustments with your matte generation, your shadows, your tolerance, and all that stuff, and clean your green screen up that much more. So what we're going to do is we're going to clean that up, and once we clean that up to our liking, we're going to size that to where we want it. Just click scale or frame size. We're going to size that. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger and scale that over the entire clip, and let's drag that to an endpoint. All right, now what I'm going to do is pretty much take my lightning green screen and drag it over my entire clip. I'm gonna offset this a little bit. I'm trying to create a 3D effect. You know, I'm gonna just make one just a little bigger, you know, and make it look, we're trying to make it look three-dimensional. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take a blur. I'm gonna take a Gaussian blur and put it on one of my lightning files. And what that does is pretty much offset the sharpness of it and make it look more 3D-ish. Like, you know how you look when something is closer to your eye and it might be blurry and the other one is sharp. So that's the idea behind this. And you guys can see that blur pretty much sets it off and makes it look that much more three-dimensional. And it's look dope, man. It's pretty much the basis of it. Again, you can take this and run with it, make it that much more complex. All you guys have to do is just remember, put everything on separate layers, import those separate layers individually in Adobe Photoshop. Make sure you save your file as a Photoshop document. And once you import those, import as individual layers, and you're good to go. Once you finish your design, man, really all you have to do is just export the media. You know, save it to a social media format, which is pretty much anything, and convert it down, and you should be good to go. I'm gonna fast forward a little bit and show you what my end design looked like. All right, this is my final product right here, and it looks pretty good, man. So you guys want to make a animated mixtape cover, social media flyer for a party, or you know, artist promo. It's pretty much the basis of it, the foundation, man. So hopefully this helps you guys out. It's Joey Papers Vision and Art Group, future proof of America, one YouTube video at a time. Y'all know we powering the independence. Y'all know what it is. Peace.